Simply Spooky.
Is it?
Apparently so. Hello, whoever that is. We will be with you in just 1 minute. We're having a few technical problems here, so let's just see why.
Oh yes, there we are. Somebody else is live on the Things Network at the same time.
They shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hang on, bear with.
Yeah, we will be with everybody in a minute. Don't worry. We just got a few problems trying to sort out. So, whose show is on the Things Network at the moment?
Bear with me.
Let's have a look. The only thing I can see on there is no. There's not anything on there, I don't think.
Medium Jennifer Rose.
Are you fucking kidding me? So, excuse my language. It's in the chat room again. Take a screenshot, please. Take a screenshot. You done it?
What? Of what?
Richard Case.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
You have been warned by the police to back off. Do so.
Stop harassing people. Stop bullying people, because quite frankly, sick of it. Somebody keeps letting you in on Simply Spooky Network. So I'm going to have to do something about that. Right. You are out of here. You've been banned, and I've blocked you. Somebody has come onto our show and unblocked you. Not happy. Whoever's doing that, no. Not having that. Not having that at all. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. We've been having issues with a Mr. Richard Case. Yeah. So, and what's going on? Why is I don't get this. I don't get what's going on tonight. I really don't.
I don't know, but it's now onto the Dark Mirrors wall.
Is it on our wall as well?
It should be. I'm just going to check.
Okay.
Yeah. By the looks of things, you can have more than one show running at the same time.
Oh, okay, that's right. There's another message on there. I'm entitled on Simply Spooky Network.
Sorry?
He's just said I'm entitled on the Simply Spooky Network. So somebody.
Yeah, you're just not entitled on our show.
You're not allowed on our show. You're banned from our show. And if anybody unblocks him again, there's going to have to be something done about it. Right. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, it curtails, as the police of Avon and Somerset police have told me, that curtails as harassment and stalking. So, Mr. Case, you are breaking the law. So, unless you want me to report you to Avon and Somerset police and the Chief Constable, I suggest you leave our show alone.
It's all right. Like I said, we'll have to do something about that. Anyway. Hope everybody's all right. Sorry about that. Mr. Case seems to be on his bullying antics again. Ignore it. Not worth it. Just waiting for Josh, because I have sent him the link and everything. So let's hope everybody's all right. And we call it a radio show, Mr. Case, because when this was first brought out over 10 years ago, it used to go out on a radio network, and it was called the Dark Mirror Radio Show. Since then, it's gone over to podcasting that, and we just kept the name. That's why. The trouble is, if you hadn't been such a bully to everybody, Richard, I'd allow you in here as a guest. So would Wayne. But the fact you were such a bully to everybody, and you said some horrible things about Wayne and his family, you can do one. Right.
Plus, you don't talk about the subjects we talk about.
Yeah,
So it's pointless having you on anyway.
Yeah,
And I did tell you that.
Yeah, you don't believe in the stuff we talk about. You don't know a lot about it, so it's not your cup of tea. Anyway,
Joey's watching. Her comments aren't coming up.
Joe's?
Yeah.
Hello from Australia. Hi, Ned. You all right, mate? Thank you for joining us in Australia. Let me have a look. See why Joe's comments are not coming up. Just bear with me. I can't see why her comments aren't coming up.
Evening, Rita.
Josh isn't going to be able to make it tonight. He's unfortunately busy, so that's okay. Right. So yeah, let's just get one thing cleared up. There seems to be a little thing going on with Mr. Case. He's not allowed near any of the people he's bullied. He's not allowed to come on the shows, and he's not allowed to harass. And the police have been on his doorstep. They've been on his doorstep several times. There is a case against him at the moment, which I can't talk too much about. Somebody seems to think it's highly amusing to keep letting him back in again so he can come onto our show and hassle. But that's absolutely fine. I know who it is. I know who's doing it. So that'll be sorted with it by the end of the week. So that'll be all sorted out, and there will be no more problems. So it's a shame he's like that, but never mind. You know, he does poo-pooing all paranormal stuff now. We do UFOs and cryptozoology, so it's not really his forte. So anyway, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but unfortunately, people take their own opinion and go way too far, and then cause offence and harassment, and that's unfortunately the case. So, anyway,
right, Joe's comments are coming through, but on the Things Network one.
Yeah, there's Joe. I can see her.
Yeah, I can't get her on the Simply Spooky one or on our Facebook one, but the Things Network is coming through on there for some reason.
Because our Facebook post thing was taken off the Simply Spooky Network, so it
there
goes
you go.
through on the Simply Spooky or Things Network. So that's something else that's got to be done. We'll sort all that out. But yeah, hi everybody. Hi Jacqueline. Hi Rita. Hi Joe. Thank you for the new graphics at the beginning. Thanks to the lovely Joe. Thank you. Hello, Catherine, and hello, everybody else. Yeah, sorry for the very higgledy-piggledy beginning. We had stuff going everywhere and stuff not going on, and then we had an interloper jump on and try and be silly. So, yeah, we had to jump on that very, very quickly. Anyway.
Yes, we don't need admin. We just need the police, which is what I've dealt with. So
anyway. So am I. I just clicked the link in the dark group. Right, there you go. Joe's back on here as well.
Yay.
And yeah. Anyway,
so did you like my new hairstyle?
Your new hairstyle. You're matching me, mate. I saw you were matching me. Yes, you're matching me.
Well.
What was I going to say? So yeah, hopefully this week I'd like to talk about, because we said last week, talk about out of place artifacts, but we will get to some of those. One thing I am going to mention is a personal Facebook post I put up. Do you remember us saying when I still lived at my old house that all this was going on with the Bobberments and they were raising everything because they were going to start taking big bonuses out of it, and the energy giants were going to start hiking their wages right up when it had all gone. Sure enough, it's happening. Sure enough, the past Tory government, a lot of them have got shares and controls in a lot of the energy giants, and so has Keir Starmer's lot. And oh look, the head of the gas giant has doubled his fee to 8 million a year for sitting on his ass, because that's really fair on everybody else who has to pay lots of money. But they decide to take away the fuel bonus that pensioners get. Yeah. Yet the gas giant can give himself an extra 4 million a year. Yeah, that's really good politics.
It's also part of that wonderful black hole that they reckon that the previous government had left behind.
Yeah, and they've made it worse and worse and worse.
Well, no, it was them. £9 billion of that was then.
Yeah, and they're just going to make it worse.
Pass the buck.
Yeah. You know, and now you're going to have it's the same with every single one. In every country in the world, whichever one gets in next, they will sit there and slag off the ones that were in there because of what's going on, and then they don't actually do anything about it. They make it fucking worse. So yeah, sorry, I do not like the previous Parliament, and I do not like the ones in now. You've got some knob like Keir Starmer in there who's born with a silver spoon in his mouth, and he's in charge. Fuck off. You need somebody who's grassroots. You really do. Anyway. How very devil is everybody? Mr. Wiggly
Guess
Worm?
What? I found something today while I was carousing, and at 8:56 a.m. this morning, an updated publication from yesterday was released. Police across the United States have published the first guide on unidentified anomalous phenomena.
Yes, I posted that up as well. Yeah, but there's nothing there.
Yeah, exactly. And when we had full disclosure or supposed full disclosure, a lot of it was redacted, and they then afterwards said there are no such thing. You're talking out your backside. There is no such thing. We don't have this. After all these whistleblowers had come forward and said there are such things, there are bodies at Area 51. There's all this, that, the other, downed aircraft, everything else. And yet, now all of a sudden, police officers across the United States are being given handbooks on how to handle the subject. So the report, which is 11 pages long, warns officers of the significant safety risks to law enforcement air support units the unidentified flying objects pose, and urge them to be vigilant when travelling in helicopters. Officers' stories of UFO confrontations are also included, with one in 2023 where a law employee saw a triangular craft with green lights gliding through the sky before a local resident and said something ran nearby. The document has been created by a police executive as it's an interest of law enforcement to be aware of trends and reporting UAP due to the unknown threat they may pose.
Yeah.
The organisation, which goes by the name Major Cities Chiefs Association for short, includes 80 executives from major US cities that work together through community outreach, research and policy development, and more recently, UFO investigations. Last month, Indian aerospace engineer S. Somanath said there are definitely aliens out there in the universe. When asked if life exists in the cosmos, Samanath, who has led the Indian Space Research Organisation since 2022, said, absolutely without a doubt. My conscience tells me yes, although I have no proof. As the chairman of ISRO, I am telling you this. It goes on more about what he's describing. And then they went on to talk to a police officer in Blairsville, Georgia, who claims to have seen green lights in the sky when patrolling in November last year. He says, I am a police officer and deputy sheriff. While on duty in after dark, near the top of my windshield, I witnessed a movement in the sky. Upon concentrating my focus, viewing through the low light, I was able to make out a triangular craft with 3 dim green lights per side. He then lost sight of the aircraft, and thank you for that advert. He then lost sight of the aircraft as it went behind the trees, and because he was inside his vehicle, he couldn't see anything. The officer then responded to a call from a resident who had heard something running outside his home, which did not sound like an animal, in the same direction the unidentified object was travelling in. The new UAP guide will be very handy for law enforcement officers or for Captured by Aliens, a history and analysis of American abduction, claims Nigel Watson. So, the be-all and end-all of it is, if there are no such things as UFOs or aliens, why would they be giving out a handbook?
Do you remember, again, and I've said this so many times with our show, for some reason, whenever we talk about stuff, It normally happens a year to 2 years later. Do you remember just after I moved in here with Rachel, we did a show and we were talking about the American government had there'd been a paper leaked where they said they were going to be issuing law enforcement and military personnel with this handbook. And then when they were questioned about it, the American government went, no, God damn it, don't know what you ding dong dong they're talking about. There's no such thing as UFOs. Oh my God, I just don't know. And they denied it vehemently and said it was never going to happen. And you heard it here on our show a year ago. Just saying.
Yep.
You're in North Georgia. Hello, Catherine. Many people saw those green lights in last November. There were literally dozens of videos on YouTube about it. There you go. And it's not just the US ones. It's the UK ones are being issued. I've got some friends who are coppers, and one of them in particular, funny enough, in Somerset Police Force. He's mentioned that they have said that these are coming to the police forces over here as well. So if there's nothing to worry about and it's not real,
exactly. Why give out a guidebook? And why allow it to go public?
Exactly.
So it then creates more questions than answers. If there are no such things as aliens and UFOs, why create and give out a handbook to police officers who obviously would be the first point of call when someone sees something like that, if they don't exist, and tell them how to deal with it? It's almost like Operation Blue Book on a worldwide scale. Rather than just a little shady organisation, they're just getting the biggest organisations for peacekeeping around the world and telling them this is how you deal with it.
Yeah, exactly. It's
be interesting once the books get released. Although it's only 11 pages long, so it shouldn't take long to read it. But once they're released, it'll be. I wonder how quick it will be for it to get into the public domain.
A boy's guide to UFOs. That's what it's going to be, isn't it?
UFO spotting 101.
There'll be an outline of a human being, a bit like the Vitruvian male, front and back, and it'll say, "Show us on this diagram where you were probed."
Yeah. So it doesn't make any sense why they would say one thing 1 minute and one thing the next. That's what they've been doing since the 40s. You know, different excuses all the time.
Exactly, Catherine. Exactly. It's that. I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, we've already said before, you know, to think that we're the only known living things in the known universe. It's I don't know, but that to me is insanity to say that.
Do you know? It's like funny enough, I was talking to Abby and Dan downstairs, Rachel's daughter, and her other half, and they're convinced that there's nothing after death, and that's just like being asleep. And it's like everyone's entitled to their own opinion, you know. And it's like I've read scientific papers that prove different, you know, and they don't believe there's anything out there. And it's like I haven't said anything, but it's like for every single dot you see in the sky out there, there's at least 2 planets capable of sustaining life. It doesn't have to be carbon-based life; it could be silicon-based, and it could look far different to us. There could be colors out there we've never seen, noises we've never heard, you know, all sorts of things. But when you think of the billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of planets out there, in fact, not just that, the billions and billions and billions of suns out there, and for each sun, there's 2 planets capable of sustaining life.
And we also have to remember that science is limited for us in this timeline.
Yeah.
But in another timeline, on the other side of the universe, their scientific timeline could be a lot earlier than ours. We know for a fact that it takes 8 minutes to get for light to get from the sun to here. It takes 4 hours to get from the sun to Pluto. So with that knowledge and the technology, which would eventually catch up with itself and overtake, we'd be able to travel to Pluto within 4 hours.
Yeah.
The theories are there. The practicality isn't as of yet. But there is nothing to state that somewhere in the universe, they're 500 years ahead of us and have managed to harness the capability of faster than light travel.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it's like, as we were talking about the other week, and a few months ago, 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 we now have impulse engines. We have a working impulse engine, which is about half the speed of light. There is now being built a light speed engine, or is it just underneath light speed? I
think it's just under.
Yeah, but it's a warp speed engine. That's it. It's a warp speed engine, isn't it? And that's being developed now. As we speak. Should be out in what we're now 24. Should be about 3 years, and it'll be out. But this is all the stuff of your wildest dreams. This is the stuff of the original Star Trek, you know. This is
Sorry,
all
my cat tried to nick me dinner.
I've got one cat who keeps jumping off the chest of drawers onto the bed, but luckily we've switched the bed off at the wall. It's one of the ones with the TVs that comes up, because she kept setting the TV off and making it go like that. And she's saying, "I want food now," and it's like, "You've had food, bugger off." So yeah, I've got one cat over there and one over there, and Ghost is downstairs pestering everybody. What's that? And then last year was just annoying. The government came forward like, "Don't be alarmed. This may be as good. It comes a bit of a shock. Aliens are real. Take all the time you need to adjust for that one." And we're like, "Hey, you don't fucking say. We've known about them for literally decades. You Brussels sprout." Are you sure you're not English, Catherine? Gets me with the American bobbleman. The British government, when the Americans came out and said that, the British went, yeah. Actually, yeah. You know, that Rishi bloody Sunak, no chin, bloody that we had. He went, yeah. And before that, Boris Johnson went, yeah, bloody blah. I do think blah, 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 blah. You know, and then the government came, the American government have now turned around and go, actually, no, I think we might have been wrong. There's no such thing as them. No such thing at all. We don't know what you're talking about. We don't think there's any such thing as these things. And then you've got all the insiders and everything that used to work for the Bobblements coming out and going, "You're talking out your ass, mate. You're absolutely talking out your ass." What's Wayne doing? He's looking behind the camera. He's actually got Pornhub on behind the camera. That's what
No, I'm just sort of heading to the next subject.
Okay, what's the next subject then?
Well, what we were supposed to be talking about.
Oh, what, out of place artifacts?
Yeah.
Well, the thing with me is, what do you make of it? Because the
thing is with out of place artifacts is how far out of place are they? Because the problem is it's things like mobile phones that have been discovered in places where they've technically been buried for like 200 years. And they're going, "We found this object. It looks like a mobile phone, but it's been under the ground at a level which we date 350 years old." And we're like, well, okay, that's fine, but you can recreate that. But again, it's like witnessing a spirit. The only way you're going to prove that's there is if you're physically there yourself and there is video evidence of them digging it up fresh out of the ground.
Yeah.
We see it a lot on TikTok when people go, "Oh, look at this gemstone I've just dug up." But the soil and the earth that they've dug it out of is completely wrong for where that sort of gem should be found. They've just buried it there themselves, compacted it down, and then waited a couple of weeks and then dug it back up again. So the problem is how truthful is the story behind that artifact. Because there are some there that are just so out of place, you know, like things that are made of plastic. You know, we know that we didn't start inventing plastic to a certain time, way before way after the Egyptians. But they had things like resin and gemstones. The resin was their plastic.
That's right.
So you wouldn't have found a mobile phone made out of resin. But it's the circuitry boards that are there as well. So that always, with that particular artifact, I always keep thinking to myself, that's been put there on purpose.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then just dug up again.
There was that ring that was a watch as well, wasn't there?
Yep. Some of them just don't make sense.
I know about the plane that disappeared in the 60s and landed again in the 80s. And there was supposed to be two, wasn't there? There was one supposed to have had everybody on board, hadn't aged or anything, but obviously everybody on our planet had. And there was another one that landed and everybody was skeletons. But they're both supposed to be real. I've looked into them, and the one with the people on board, you cannot find out anything about them. There's no details about them. And the one with the skeletons on board, you can only find the stories. You can't find out what actually happened afterwards. So I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, it was that was the Babylonica. The Babylonica. Not, I can't even say it. Babylon Nokia.
Ah, right. Babylon Nokia.
Yeah, that's what they called it. That's what it's been called, Babylon Nokia, a clay tablet shaped like a mobile phone and created as an artwork in 2012. Fringe scientists and alternative archaeology proponents subsequently misrepresented a photograph of the artwork as showing an 800-year-old archaeological find. The story was popularized in a video on YouTube channel Paranormal Crucible and led to the object being reported by some press sources as a mystery. So that just proves the point how something can be manipulated and sent out as misinformation. And that sets the people, concocting their own theories and saying, well, it was this, it was that. There must have been some alien species came down here 800 years ago. Yeah. That alien species just so happened to have the same company that made mobile phones called Nokia.
Oh, somebody has just messaged me and said, can we have a chat afterwards if you have time? Wonder what's coming. Anyway, we will have to see, won't we? We will have to see about that. Yeah. Sorry. Not very happy. Fuming. Yeah. Antikythera device. That's another one.
Yeah.
The Antikythera device, I think, was a mariner's portable computer that could do calendar, seas, tides, star and planet alignments, where they are, and all this stuff. And it had geared wheels on it and everything. And the thing was, gears weren't around at the time that this is supposed to be made. And it was made out of an alloy that wasn't around for about 2,000 years after it was made. So how did they get it? Where did they get the knowledge from? Where did it come from?
Yep. It's like a lot of them, isn't it? The 2,000-year-old batteries, the Egyptian light bulbs.
The Baghdad batteries.
Yeah. How have where have they obtained that knowledge from?
Well, it's like they've got light bulbs as well. There's some cartouches depicting the batteries, but there's also a cartouche depicting the batteries and the light. And it wasn't mirrors, because normally they said they use highly polished metals that was bouncing the light off each other and lighting up inside. And it wasn't. It was this Baghdad battery rigged up with two guys with a chuffing great big light bulb type thing holding it there to light up stuff. So yeah, 3,000-year-old Swiss watch. Yeah, no, that's the one I was just talking about. It was a ring. It was a Swiss watch, but it was a ring, And I've only ever seen stuff like that like in the 80s, when people used to wear those little tiny watches on expandable bracelets as a ring. I remember stuff like that. Wayne, would you be all right to do the show for about 5 minutes whilst I just make a quick phone call?
Yeah.
Are you all right to do that a second? Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I will be back.
Should be able to.
Yeah, just 1 minute. Let me just sort to me.
All he had to do was just mute and turn his camera off. But yeah, I mean, anybody that doesn't already know about them beforehand, we had the the Baghdad batteries, which were clay jars with an asphalt stopper and iron rods made some 2,000 years ago and have been proven capable of generating more than a volt of electricity. These ancient batteries were found by German archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig in 1938, just outside Baghdad, Iraq. The batteries have always attracted interest as curious. Dr. Paul Craddock, a metallurgy expert at the British Museum, told the BBC in 2003 that they are one-off. As far as we know, nobody else has found anything like these. They're odd things. They are one of life's enigmas. And to date, obviously this was in 2003, and to date, nobody else have found anything similar. So it is specific to that region. And they've tried to recreate it. And obviously, as we know, through people that study science and just random experiments, come out with things like getting power out of a lemon or power out of an orange. They've done exactly the same thing. They've experimented with things. The problem is, how far back do you go? If they're 2,000 years old, you know, could someone have turned around and said, "Oh, actually, this is generating this power. We should use it." Could they have been something that was made? The jars themselves could have been 2,000 years old, but the components could have been put together a lot earlier. Who knows, without studying it. And then you get the ancient Egyptian light bulb. A relief beneath the temple of Hathor at Dendera in Egypt depicts figures standing around a large light bulb-like object. Eric von Daniken, who wrote Chariot of the Gods, created a model of the bulb which works when connected to a power source, emitting an eerie purplish light. In 1852, in what was now known as Rockwall, Colorado, I think it's Rockwall, Colorado, I don't know, Rockwall Co. Texas farmers digging a well discovered what appeared to be an ancient rock wall, estimated to be some 200,000 to 400,000 year old. Some say it's a natural formation, while others say it's clearly man-made. And that's simply because of all the rocks being put together in such a fluid shape. And we have seen similar up on the Peruvian mountainsides, where the rocks have been put together so tightly and compact that you couldn't even fit a cigarette paper in between the rocks. So they've been sort of gelled in together that tight that there's no need for cement or anything or any mortar in between the bricks. The Dr. John Geisman at the University of Texas in Dallas tested the rocks as part of a History Channel documentary. He found they were all magnetized the same way, suggesting they formed where they are and were not moved to the site from elsewhere. But some remain unconvinced by this single TV show test and asked for further studies. Geologist James Shelton and Harvard-trained architect John Lindsay have noted elements that seem to be of an architectural design, including archways, lentilled portals, and square opening that resemble windows. I don't know of any natural occurrence where that would happen. It is a bit weird. And we have in 1972, 1.8 billion year old nuclear reactor. We've mentioned this before. In 1972, a French factory imported uranium ore from Akayo in Africa's Gabon Republic. The uranium had already been extracted. They found the site of origin to have apparently functioned as a large-scale nuclear reactor that came into being 1.8 billion years ago and was in operation for some 500,000 years. Dr. Glenn T. Seaborg, former head of the United States Atomic Energy Commission and Nobel Prize winner for his work in the synthesis of heavy elements, explained why he believes it wasn't a natural phenomenon and thus must be man-made nuclear reactor. For uranium to burn in reaction, very precise conditions are needed. And we mentioned this about a very similar occurrence in Siberia. The water must be extremely pure, for one, much purer than exists naturally. So it's got to be purified by us. It's got to be a man-made process. The material U-235 is necessary for nuclear fission to occur. It is one of the isotopes found naturally in uranium. Several specialists in reactor engineering have said they believe the uranium in Akayo could not have been rich enough in U-235 for a reaction to take place naturally. So that is one technically nuclear reactor, and there is another one in Siberia. So strange. A seafaring map that was discovered that actually shows Antarctica before it was covered in ice. A map created by Turkish admiral and cartographer Piri Reis in 1513, but sourced from various earlier maps, is thought to be by some to depict Antarctica as it was in a very remote age before it was covered with ice. A landmass is shown to jut out from the southern coastline of South America. Captain Lorenzo W. Burroughs, of U.S. Air Force captain in the cartographer section, wrote a letter to Dr. Charles Hapgood in 1961, saying that this landmass seems to accurately show Antarctica's coast as it is under the ice. Dr. Hapgood was one of the first to publicly suggest that Piri Reis' map depicts Antarctica during a prehistoric time. He was a Harvard-educated historian whose theories about geological shifts earned the admiration of Albert Einstein. He hypothesized that the land masses had shifted, explaining why Antarctica is shown as connected to South America. Modern studies refute Hapgood's theory that such shift could have taken place within thousands of years, but they show that it could have happened within millions of years. So we have, let's see if I can, there we go, right. Okay. Here we go, I'm back. Okay, and then we have a 2,000-year-old Earth detector. And from what I can tell, we still struggle to detect when earthquakes are going to happen. What's going on there? Oh, just had a mad moment. Bear with me. And where are we? There we go. In China. In 132 AD, Zhang Heng created the world's first seismoscope. How exactly it works remains a mystery, but replicas have worked with a precision comparable to modern instruments. In 138 AD, it correctly indicated that an earthquake occurred about 300 miles west of Luoyang, the capital city. No one had felt the quake in Luoyang and dismissed the warning until a messenger arrived days later requesting aid. So where is this technology coming from? These must be clever people. You know, are they the same as Nikola Tesla? It does make you wonder where these things are coming from, and they're all being discovered from underground. There has been an underground source, and they have been discovered. So, are we looking at a forgotten history, and there's been a big reset, i.e., the Great Flood, because that would have been classed as a great reset? Who knows? 150,000-year-old pipework. Caves near Mount Baigong in China contain pipes leading to a nearby lake. They were dated by the Beijing Institute of Geology to be about 150,000 years old, according to the Brian Dunning of Skeptoid.com. State-run media Xinhua reported that the pipes were analysed at a local smeltery and 8% of the material could not be identified. Zheng Jiandong, a geology research fellow from the China Earthquake Administration, told state-run newspaper People's Daily in 2007 that some of the pipes were found to be highly radioactive. Jiandong said iron-rich magma may have risen from the deep in the earth, bringing the iron into fissures which may have solidified into tubes. Though he admitted there is indeed something mysterious about these pipes, he cited the radioactivity as an example of the strange qualities of the pipes. Bizarre. But then we have the Antikythera mechanism, which Mark mentioned. Now, the Antikythera mechanism is a 2,000-year-old mechanical device used to calculate the positions of the sun, moon, planets, and even dates of ancient Olympic Games. So, an ancient clock. It's a mechanism often referred to as an ancient computer that was built by Greeks around 150 BC, and it was able to calculate astronomical changes with great precision. If it hadn't been discovered, no one would have possibly believed that it could exist because it's so sophisticated, said mathematician Tony Freeth in the Nova documentary. Matthias Butet, Director of Research and Development for watchmaker Hublot, said in a video released by Hellenic Republic Ministry of Culture and Tourism, the Antikythera mechanism includes ingenious features which are not found in modern watchmaking. Not much else information on that without going astray. But if it was able, 150 BC, to be able to calculate such things, again, we should be a lot more advanced than we actually are. If you look at that being over 2,000 years old, and we had something like that in Greece, something's not right. Something's amiss. A drill bit in coal. John Buchanan Esquire presented a mystical object to a meeting at the Society of Antiquaries in Scotland on December 13th, 1852. A drill bit had been found encapsulated in coal about 22 inches thick, buried in a bed of clay mixed with boulders about 7 feet thick. The Earth's coal is said to have formed hundreds of millions of years ago. The Society decided that the instrument was of a modern level of advancement, but it concluded that the iron instrument might have been part of a borer broken during some form of search for coal. Buchanan's detailed report did not include any signs that the coal surrounding the instrument had been punctured by drilling at any time. So how did the drill bit end it? And there was another one similar, I think the London hammer. And that is a similar object where they've asked the question is how did that hammer get within the rock in the first place? It is, how did it get there? We've got the 2.8 billion year old spheres. Now, spheres with fine grooves around them, found in mines in South Africa, have been said by some to be naturally formed masses of mineral matter. Others have said they were precisely shaped by a prehistoric human hand. The globes, which have a fibrous structure on the inside with a shell around it, are very hard and cannot be scratched, even by steel, said Ralph Marks, curator of the Museum of Klerksdorp, South Africa. According to Michael Cremo's book Forbidden Archaeology, The Hidden History of the Human Race, Marx said that the spheres are about 2.8 billion years old. They are mineral masses. It's unclear how exactly they're formed. But oddly enough, they appear to be odd-shaped cricket balls. They've got 3 grooves around them. If I can... Hang on, let me see if I can call it up. Here we go. Right, there we are. They look like cricket balls. I don't know when South Africa were given the wonder of cricket, but they do look like cricket balls. But then the question is, if they are cricket balls, then yeah, where have they come from? Certainly is a strange one. And then we have the Iron Pillar of Delhi. And the pillar is at least 1,500 years old, but it could be older. It remains rust-free and is of an outstanding purity. It is 99.72% iron, according to Professor A.P. Gupta, head of the Department of Applied Sciences and Humanities at the Institute of Technology and Management in India. In modern times, wrought iron has been made with a purity of 99.8%, but it contains manganese and sulfur, two ingredients absent in this pillar. And it was made at least 400 years before the largest known foundry of the world could have produced it, wrote John Rowlett in a study of the craftsmen and ancient and medieval civilizations to show the influence of their training on our present-day method of trade education. There are inscriptions on there as well, so for it to be almost pure iron is bizarre. Again, it predates any iron foundry by 400 years. So it's, lawn bowling balls, exactly. That's part of it. See, it's some of these things are looking so out of place. The Viking sword of Ulfbert. When archaeologists found the Viking sword Ulfbert dating from 800 to 1000 AD, they were stunned. They could see how the technology to make such a sword would have been available until the Industrial Revolution 800 years later. Its carbon content is 3 times higher than other swords of its time, and impurities were removed to such degree that iron ore must have been heated to at least 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. With great effort and precision, modern blacksmith Richard Fuhrer of Wisconsin forged a sword of Ulfbert quality using technology that would have been available in the Middle Ages. He said it was the most complicated thing he'd ever made, and he used methods not known to have been used by people at that time. That would have got him because, how? He struggled to make that sword. Hello. I've just been.
Hang on, you're on mute. Right, say again.
I was on mute. You muted me.
I did. I'm sorry. I was on the phone. All sorted. I'll talk to you later.
Oh, it's a good job I wasn't muted throughout the live feed, because otherwise I'd have been standing there. My mouth would have been doing this, and no one would have heard what I was saying.
To be absolutely honest, you would have seen it in the comments because you would have seen people going.
Yeah, no. People have heard me. I was just going through some weird stuff when you shortly went off.
Yeah.
Where were we at? We were at.
I had to sort something out now.
We just started talking about
bowling balls. Are you talking about those spheres, 1.5 billion years old or something, with the lines?
Yeah. Well, we talked about other weird stuff like the 2,000-year-old earthquake detector.
Yes, that has been proved to have worked, and it was used once, and they knew it worked. And I think it was something like 3 days later, a runner from where it went off came to them and said, "Can you help us? We've had an earthquake."
Yeah, can you give us a hand? And we did talk about the Antikythera mechanism. The Antikythera there. And we've just gone past the Iron Pillar in Delhi.
That never rusts. It's 99.7% pure iron, isn't it?
99.72%.
Yeah.
And then we just talked about the Viking sword of Ulfbert.
Yeah.
Which a guy had tried to use similar methods. He said that with great effort, he found it very hard and was probably the most complicated thing he'd ever made. And he used methods not known.
Hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it there yourself. Wayne just said, "It's very hard." Oh! Right, carry on.
He said it was the most complicated thing he'd ever made, and he used methods not known to have been used by people at that time. They reckoned that the actual methods used to create such a sword did not come about until 800 years later.
Yeah, and there's also, I can't remember who the Japanese swordsmith knows. Rita would know. There's a Japanese swordsmith was way. He was like 600 years ahead of his time, and no one's been able to recreate his swords. Thank you, Joe, by the way. There's also, do you remember us saying there was 1.5 million year old depleted uranium found that you can only get through man-made process? There's no other way to do it.
Now, guess what? We found another one.
Are you on the Ancient Origins site?
No.
Right.
Oh, yes, I am.
Yeah. Have you found a 1.8 billion year old nuclear reactor?
In Ohio.
Yeah, that's it. Well, you're on the same website as me. That's really good because I was going to send it to you. So carry on.
Is it Oko or Oklo? I think it was Oklo, isn't it?
I think it was OKIO in African's Gabon Republic.
Yeah, I think if that was Ohio, I was thinking Japan.
Hokkaido. Oh.
Yeah. But in reference to the drill bit found in coal,
yes,
which I mentioned previously, we then come to the 100 million year old hammer.
That's right, yeah.
And it was found in London, Texas. A lot of people think London, UK, but it's not.
Yeah,
it was
right,
London, Texas. And that was found in 1934, encased in stone that had formed around it. The rock surrounded the hammer is said to be more than 100 million years old. Glenn J. Cuban, a vocal skeptic of claims the hammer was made millions of years ago, said the stone may contain materials that are more than 100 million years old, but that doesn't mean the rock formed around the hammer so long ago. Some limestone has formed around artifacts known to be from the 20th century. So, concretions can form fairly quickly around objects, and he said that they're masses of hardened mineral matter. Carl Bow, who is in possession of the artifact, said the wooden handle has turned to coal, evidence of its age, and that the metal it is made of has a strange composition. Critics have called for more independent testing to verify these claims, but so far, no such testing has been conducted.
The thing is, though, with any out-of-place artifact, and those are guys out there who know about this stuff and read up on it, you'll get it. It's the same with anything in the paranormal. Actually, thinking about it, to put a broader thing on it, the umbrella of the paranormal is vast. It's not just ghosties and ghoulies, it's UFOs, it's USOs, it's things like this, it's cryptozoology, there's time travel, there's so many different things that come under it. But it doesn't matter what the subject is, you will always have people. You'll either you sort of get two sides. You get the ones that rave about it, and then you'll get the ones who go, no, can't possibly be. Like we spoke about earlier with the government saying, yeah, UFOs here. No, they're not, we're wrong. Here's a handbook.
Yeah.
You know? They'll say there is, there isn't, there is, there isn't, and it's exactly the same with those artifacts. I read something a while back about that hammer, and it was the same thing. They'll go, no, you know, no, it was just encased in stone. It's like a couple hundred years old. It's an 1800s hammer. The stone itself is not a couple of hundred years old. It wasn't actually limestone surrounding it. It was something else. I can't remember what it was. And the strata from where it was found had not been touched. And you could see all around it hadn't been touched for millions and millions of years. And it's a genuine out-of-place artifact, is it? And they find it all. One day we're going to find a dinosaur skeleton with made in Futur stamped on its ass, you know? So, yeah.
I mean, there was one that I mentioned earlier on, actually. It was a drill bit that was found in coal.
That's right.
Where is it? Oh, that was it. The drill bit and coal. That was in the Scotland in 1852. The drill bit had been found encased in coal, about 22 inches thick. And they said that, going by all the indications, there was no entry mark for where this drill bit came from.
Yeah. Yeah. Bless you, Doctor. Bless you, Doctor.
So very similar to the London hammer, you come across the drill bit.
And
so the hammer is not the only object that has ended up like that.
Exactly. There's lots and lots of things. There's lots of things. There's those blue stones as well. And I can't remember what they're called. We'll have to carry this on next week anyway. But
Yes.
we've already had the depleted uranium that's been found. Can only be done by a man-made process. There's no other way. It doesn't come in nature. It's the only way you can get it. There's the nuclear reactor, the remains of a nuclear reactor that's been found. Now, have you read about 150,000-year-old pipes that are coming from a hot spring water source?
I did cover one of 150,000-year-old pipes that have come out of caves near Mount Baigong in China.
Baigong, yeah.
Baigong.
Yes, Baigong. Yeah. You've done the Antikythera, the drill bit in coal, the spheres.
Yeah, we're right the way down, right down to the prehistoric work site.
What about the spark plug?
We ain't got that far.
The work site. Where are you? 1 million year old bridge. Prehistoric work site. There you go. Well, the thing is, what you've got to remember is the term prehistoric. People think that's when you had knuckle dragging fuckwits going around bonking women on the head, dragging them home and going, "Oh, we're married now. Woo-hoo, take it." But it wasn't. All prehistoric means it was before anything was written down. So, if you had precursors and you had things like Atlantis and megacities and stuff like that, that was before our history. So nothing's going to be written down apart from what's in the Emerald Scrolls of Thoth and Pliny the Elder writing down about it. And he wrote down about it about 400 years after it happened. So, it's all prehistoric means prehistory before we had it written down.
Well, this is what I said earlier on, that there's been a great reset somewhere along the line, because a lot of these artifacts we're finding are thousands of years old.
Exactly.
And older. So there appears, it does what appears to be a great reset somewhere along the line, where, like with the Egyptian light bulbs, it was rebuilt and tested, and it gave off a purple light, which means whatever it was they depicted on the hieroglyphics was a working example of a light bulb.
Yeah, and they also, I've seen, to do with that, the purple light, there are some hieroglyphics that when black light is shone on it, they come out like 3D. And it's not what's in the stone. It's not anything that was, no ink or anything. It's what's actually in the stone.
And it wasn't just that either. There was an aeroplane. I've seen a documentary of it now, come to think of it. There was a statue of what appeared to be an aircraft, and it was made out of gold. And someone decided to increase the scale of it, bring it up to scale to the size of what the aircraft would be. And they made it out of the plywood and the paper to keep it as light as possible. And they actually threw it, and it flew.
Yeah, that was the Egyptian one, wasn't it?
That's a race of people that didn't know anything about flight apart from what birds do.
Yeah, that was based because there was all different dynasties with Egypt. There was the first pre-dynasties as well. There's pre-dynastic Egypt, and the plain cartouche and a few of the others came from that era. So the pyramids, and I think it's a Sphinx, some of those were being made pre-dynastic era as well. So you've got that coming with the legends of the gods and their chariots and their flaming chariots, and then you had the plain one. There's also a helicopter one, and there's a few others, but you've got all these cartouches and hieroglyphs that are prehistory. So I'm telling you, we are not the first humans here. We are humans 2.0.
Yep. Could we be humans 3.0?
Say again?
Could we actually be humans 3.0?
Well, when you think about how old the planet really is, because it's not just a few million years old, it's billions of years old. When you think about how old the planet is, and there's not just been one giant land mass where all the continents were together, there's been lots of giant land masses where there's been the reset, the continents come together and then split up again over time. There has been tons and tons and tons of various types of hominid, blah, 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 blah. I think the whole reason you've got the sightings and the stories and the myths about the giants, the fae, the this, the that, the goblins, the pixies, the fairies. I think these are all either come through doorways or they are left over from pre us, from the humans 1.0, humans 0.5, blah blah, or they were failed experiments when the Anunnaki were trying to make us, or they were keepers of us.
But there's got to be something in it, because when you go back to the 1.8 billion year old nuclear reactor in Okio in Gabon, if human beings, as we are now, Homo sapiens, are only 200,000 years old, where do you get a 1.8 billion year old nuclear reactor from? Because the only way that could be like that, the actual the uranium needed, can only be done through a man-made process, like we said about the one in Siberia. It can only be done by a man-made process, because that pure water cannot be made in nature. It can only be done through a man-made process. So who made it?
Exactly. And I'm sorry, but there were people before us, and I think it's known by the higher ups. Could you stop shaking the camera, please? Thank you very much, Ghost. I think it's well known to the higher ups that there was people before us, and I think there is evidence and proof. And I think if you can get into the papal archives, you'll probably see it there. Yo, Bill, we are just about to finish, my dude, but it is really nice to see you here. Thank you, Lilo. If you could stop shaking the camera as well. Animals! Jesus! Aliens! Now my missus is doing it! Pack it in!
Oh, that's interesting.
What's interesting? Rice Krispies?
The 1 million year old bridge.
Yes. I've looked at that, and there's several others as well when you look at it. And if you put in the bridge along with the Piri Reis map, and there's a couple of other maps as well, which we'll bring up next week, because we'll carry this on, because I find this subject fascinating. Do you? We'll talk about it next. My God. The ghost was licking Lilo on the head, and she was letting her, and there wasn't World War III. What the world's going mad? But yeah, when you look at the maps and the Piri Reis map, some maps that came out at the same time, they depict Antarctica as lush, green, and cities. And then if you look
connected to South America.
Yep. And if you look at these maps, like the prehistoric wall near the Bahamas, and look at the Bimini Road as well. Look that up, and there's some underwater things in Japan as well, which are giant roads, giant things, statues, and all this stuff. There's so much evidence pointing to before us. There's a city with a pyramid in it down underneath Bermuda, and it's not made up. It's fact. They've proved it. They've taken the photos. There's a black pyramid in the middle of it that made out of a material they don't know about. You can't get near it.
Isn't there? There's also one off the coast of Japan, isn't there? Pyramid.
Yeah, and that's all to do with what I was talking about, like not the Bimini High Road, but there's like a road there as well under the water, but it's massive, and it's made, and the statues and the steps that cut into it, the one of Japan, are for people much bigger than us.
Have you heard about the ship under the 9/11 towers?
The ship under the 9/11 towers?
Yeah.
No, what's that?
There's a ship found underneath in the foundation.
A ship has been found in the foundation underneath the 9/11 towers?
Yeah.
That's nothing unusual.
Yeah.
We've got built a housing estate here where I live. When they were digging the foundations, they found the remains of a clipper that was built here in Wivenhoe. And when it finished its service, it was put into dry dock, and then it was buried over, and it became a woodyard. Then when it came to building the housing estate, when they were redoing the foundations, they uncovered the original ship.
Think about it.
So it's now been kept out, so you can actually go down there and you can actually see the actual line and the actual markings of where the ship stood.
That's really cool.
Which they tried to cover over, and the close I live in is named after it.
Right, okay. That makes a lot of sense.
This is why we have such an issue with the likes of Google and the Royal Mail and people, because they say it's Capilla, and it's not, it's Capilla, after the ship. and they just.
You're giving your address out. You don't want the likes of psycho stalkers from different parts of the country stalking you with their stalkiness.
That's all right.
What Rachel just said about that ship underneath the Twin Towers, when you think about it, New York is a harbour, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's got a harbour and everything. So yeah, that would make sense.
It's a big island, so it would have had plenty of jetties and pontoons around it. And then when it became too overpopulated, they would have tried to expand it out a bit more. So they would have filled in certain pontoons and harbours and dry docks to expand the island. And then obviously at some point something would have been covered over. And then when they go to build basements and things for car parks and stuff, they uncover it.
And I like the way Sarah Louisa said, I bet there's less potholes on our roads today about the one under Japan. Yeah, and the Bimini High Road. Right. We have run over. I won't let it. Did they find Godzilla? I'd love to. I won't let it. I can't let it run over anymore because there's people on after us, and that will be eating into their time slot. So I will say thank you very much. Thank you very much for running the show for me whilst I made a phone call, mate. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen.
That's okay.
And I'll speak to you in a second, mate. Everybody else, we will see you next week. Remember, keep your eyes to the skies every Monday, 9:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, which is 3:30 p.m. Central Time in the USA. And we'll carry on talking about out of place artifacts and whatever crap crosses our mind and pisses us off. So until then, it's goodbye from him. Oh, and it's goodbye from me. See you later.